Here we go. It's time for our Celebrity Insider interview this week for the 104th PGA Championship. And boy, do I have somebody special for all of you. His name is Cary Cozby. He's the director of golf at Southern Hills Country Club, host of this week's major championship. I can't wait to get started with him. Let's jump right in. So, Cary, let's start with something fun. How cool was it to caddy for Tiger Woods a couple weeks ago?
Well, it's beyond fun and surreal, really. I was very conscious of it when I went out there, just because I'm such an admirer of his, from just his, not just his accomplishments. And I've said this, I talked to my son about this a lot. I think when you start digging in the numbers of Tiger Woods, I mean, his work ethic and his fight and grit that he always displayed, the very few times that he missed the cut or was close to making the cut, missing the cut, he'd birdied two of the last 3 or 4 holes to make the cut on the number or get inside by 1 or something like that. And I think that's just an incredible trait about him. In addition to the 15 majors and 80 plus wins and all the things he's done that, as a junior and as an amateur and all that. So to carry for him here and then have my son, carrying for Rob McNamara, his friend, to watch that up close for 18 holes was just off the charts. Memory of a lifetime. Really, 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 really cool. Wish I could do it again.
Last time there was a major championship here was 2007. We know the story. It was Tiger Woods, but there have been a couple changes there, Cary, since that time. Yeah. What's the biggest difference between that major championship and what these men are going to see here in 2022?
It's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot different weather. In August it is really, really hot typically. And of course, 2007 was maybe the hottest major on record ever. The rough's different in August. It's very kind of Brillo pad, kind of rough and stringy. And so the temps look like they're going to be kind of mid 80s. And like I said, it's kind of hopefully some not too terribly windy. The wind will be more in the spring than it will be in the summer. But from a golf course standpoint, the corridors have been opened up a lot. You can see a lot more across the property. So I'd say it's a little bit easier driving, except for the fact it's 450 yards longer. You kind of forget about that. But I don't think guys are going to hit 2 irons around here like Tiger did, 3 irons and 5 irons. So it's 450 yards longer. But I think it's a slightly easier driving course than it used to be. But I think the real premium is going to be on precision with your iron play into the greens. And I've seen that a lot or heard that comment a lot in the last few weeks with the players who've come in that you better be precise when you come in. It's not just hitting the ball onto the green. It's also the right shape and spin and things of that nature, because the edges of the greens are significantly different than they were in 07. We'd gotten a little flat shelf on the edges. One of the things that Gil Hanse and Jim Wagner with their crew was to reestablish the Maxwell roll. So the edges of the greens are all much softer, more crowned than they used to be. And we don't have any rough for the most part around any of the greens. So ball that, in some places might be a pace or two off the green, they're going to be 10, 20, 30, 40 yards off the green. And so somebody who it's really going to challenge the precision on your iron play or your approach play. And then I think of somebody who knows how to really pitch the ball well is going to be our champion. It's just my gut. If I'm looking at the forecast right now and it says, we can have a wind as high as 20, but 10 to 20 and dry, better be able to chip it. People who grew up in Bermuda, obviously Scotty Scheffler's on a heater, so he would be a great choice. Jordan Spieth grew up in Dallas and some wind. It's windier in Dallas than it's here typically, but so he's used to wind. He's used to Bermuda grass, and he can flat out, he's a magician with a wedge. So those guys are good choices. But I think it's going to be an approach golf course, getting good angles off the tee and having discipline to hit basically the front middle of every green, front third of every green. And Southern Hills doesn't have I don't think it has a shot or a hole or something like that where, you could lose sleep on hitting penalty shots, or hitting a ball OB or into a penalty area or something like that. But what it does is it puts pressure on you from the first tee shot till the last green. And it's like any hole out here, a good player could make the bogey. There's not just a kick away birdie hole. There's not any of them that are kick away birdies. So it's a real challenge, especially when it's firm and fast.
So we'll start talking about building this player model, this champion model, right? Okay. Who's going to win the 104th PGA? strokes gained off the tee, not necessarily required, but the closer we get to the
Yeah.
green, the more refined they have to be. Is there a certain type of shot around the green that if we're looking at different styles of players, like if I'm thinking about the short game of Shane Lowry versus that of a Jordan Spieth, or is it just total versatility with the short clubs?
I think you got to be able to hit a lot of different shots. I mean, I've watched Patrick Reed he was here for 2 days in kind of mid-April. And his form is really improving. And you watch how he chips and putts it. He's really good. John Rahm was here the last couple of days. Obviously can really, really chip and pitch the ball. Spieth and Scheffler, those guys. I think you're right. As you get closer and you look at some of the past champions, there's a lot of great short games. Ray Floyd, Hubie Green, Tiger Woods, Dave Stockton, Retief Goosen back in the early 2000s. That guy made everything, right? So it's the greens are interesting because the longer the hole, the more subtle the break. The shorter the hole, the more crazy the break is. They're not big mounds. You don't miss putts by big amounts. You miss putts over the edge, and it's frustrating. You can roll it really well and be rolling it nice and heavy and hitting it where you're wanting, and the ball can just roll over the edge, on either side. And so I think that it's going over 4 days. The other thing, if you look at too, the past champions, the champion has played typically one really, really great round and kind of held on. Tiger shot 63 in the second round, and he was one under the other three. He shot one over, one under, one under. Ray Floyd shot 63 in the first round, included 9 straight threes, by the way, from 6 to 14. Wow. And that scorecard's amazing to look at when you see it up here. And, all of our par threes are in that stretch, but 13 was played at a 4, but 27 on 9 holes doesn't add up very fast. You can kind of limp through the other 9. You look at that, and it's so the course will give up, a great round, somebody who plays great, but it's not typically going to give it up to 4 days just because of the demand of the course. And that's the one thing. The players just hit it farther and longer and seem to be getting better and better. Of course, we're 75-50, par 70 with small greens that play even smaller than the square footage. So I think it's going to be a challenge, but who knows? They may go light it up.
Well, these guys are good. That's for sure.
They are really good. Yeah.
And you know what? You're hearing all of this feedback. And I think some of the coolest stories you've even mentioned already is your observations as a great player, but also the host, the director of golf there, and someone who was there as an assistant. I mean, you've been around that property a long time. Right. Has anything stuck out in your mind in a practice round or a comment from some of the best in the world that even maybe surprised you that was an observation about Southern Hills?
I can tell it's been a windy spring, so I can tell that there's a lot of, hey, this is a really hard golf course. I was talking to Kevin Kirk, great instructor out of Texas, National Teacher of the Year, and Patrick Reed when they were here. And I said, and at this time, we hadn't had a ton of heat or a ton of rain. And I said, we're probably not going to have a ton of rough. And they both looked at me like, yeah, you don't need a lot of rough around here. Of course, it's blowing 30. And when it does that, and spending time yesterday with John Rahm, he was just chipping and putting. He ended up playing this morning and then caught a flight home. But he was talking to my son after, and they were just hanging out and talking. He said that we were having a sandwich. And I said, you want to ask anything, as a 13-year-old kid? And he said, what were you thinking on the last 4 holes of the U.S. Open? Pretty good question, kind of out of wasn't expecting what I thought he was going to say. And he said, Rahm goes, I was thinking birdie, 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 birdie. He was chasing, and he told his caddy that he thought if he made 2 4s and 2 3s in any combination of the last holes that he would win. And he said, I'll tell you this. He said, if I've got if somebody has a 1-shot lead on Sunday here, he goes, 4 pars will get it done. And so I think I'm seeing it in. I didn't get a chance to talk to Spieth and Thomas yesterday. They got done, but they played in the 30-mile-an-hour winds or 20 plus for sure. I think the comments were it was really, really hard. I know Reed made a comment to Rahm because Rahm said that Reed had told him he hit driver in number 8, long uphill par 3, and so I think I've looked at it. Obviously, I'm significantly biased towards the property and towards the work that we did. But try to be objective, of course. But to see the best players in the world that have come through here all just love the work that's been done. They appreciate that it's going to challenge every part of their game. I think that's probably the one thing that I've noticed. And just Scotty Scheffler saying this is his most favorite course. Now he may have a different opinion of his favorite course after his victory down at Augusta, but I know he loves it and had a practice round here. He had a kind of a sloppy. We just had 8 inches of rain in 5 days, but you think it's a challenge, and it certainly seems like it is to them as well.
We're less than a week away. You have a good understanding of the course conditions. You have a great understanding of the golf course. I'm going to put you on the spot for a second. Who of the favorites do you think stands the best chance?
I'm going to say Scheffler and Rahm, and here's why. Obviously, those are kind of layup choices, 1 and 2 in the world, right? Scheffler won the Big 12 championship here when he was at that school in Austin. He's made mention this is one of his favorite course in the country. So that when you have that kind of positive vibe going on, and then just walking with Rahm yesterday, he seemed to genuinely love the golf course, called it a proper golf course, and he was fully immersed in what he was trying to accomplish with his game plan. And I know he's put a big premium on his on his short game. It's always been great, but his chipping and pitching has really improved. And I just think the mental side of really digging it, I think is going to, I think one of those two guys, and they're both playing great. That would be my choice. I'd love to see Tiger contend as well. Yeah, I think we all would, but that'd be great theater. Watch him battling those guys would be great. So it's hard to bet against Scheffler and Rahm, even though there's going to be more pressure on Scheffler after winning the Masters and being number one. But even number one in the world when he went to Augusta and won. So he's obviously a really special type of player. And Rahm, has got a major under his belt, been number one in the world a few times already, and he just won his last start. I'm guessing he's full of confidence as well.
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt. I'm curious. Right. You've seen a lot of people come through there. Give me one long shot, somebody that's off everyone's radar.
You watch a guy like he hadn't been here yet, but if you watch Corey Connors, he hits it so good with his irons and he pitches it great, and he's been playing very well this year. I don't know him. I think around here, a guy like Taylor Gooch, who grew up playing the Oklahoma Junior Golf Tour from Oklahoma City area, would be a really cool story. Obviously, everybody's a fan of Victor Hovland. He spends a lot of time he lives in Oklahoma. He's been over a few times. He can certainly hit all the shots required here. Those are all going to be popular choices come next week. They'll have big gatherings watching the local guys too.
Well, I'll tell you what, Cary, there's nobody more popular at Southern Hills than you. I mean, I can't think of a better fit. I can't think of a better fit for that place, my friend. You have a great week next week, and I really appreciate you spending the time.
Thanks for your patience. See you. All right, bye-bye.
Wow, what awesome insights there from Cary. I love this stuff, and I love Read the Line. So thanks to everybody for tuning in today, and I'll be out, in Tulsa all week covering the PGA Championship. So keep an eye on those social platforms. We'll be having some fun, and we'll be doing some live betting for sure. Until next week, I'm Keith Stewart, and thanks for continuing to read the line.